From the San Diego Union-Tribune, this is The Conversation.
I'm Abby.
And I'm Luis.
We know you're flooded with news, memes, and all kinds of information each day.
And we know that can be a little overwhelming.
But if there's one story that will get you talking, tweeting, and caught up for the day, this is the one.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining me on a special podcast edition of The Conversation. This time we're covering Comic-Con. We're doing several interviews, and today I'm joined by Kerry Dixon, who is the editor-in-chief of the San Diego Comic-Con Unofficial blog. That's where you get all your scoops, all your info on what's going on at Comic-Con this year. Kerry, say hello to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
So, Kerry, you will be coming down here to San Diego Comic-Con. But one thing I learned is that you are actually not based in California. Where are you?
So this is the funny thing. I run the San Diego Comic-Con Unofficial blog, and there's several of us, but I'm the editor-in-chief, and I actually live in Oklahoma. Which, if you've never been, there's not a whole lot of reason to come here. But
and here I was hoping to be invited to Oklahoma.
I mean, you're welcome to come. But yeah, I'm not local to San Diego. We do have people on our staff who are local to San Diego, but yeah, I'm just not one of them.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like the history of the Unofficial blog. How did it start? When did it start? You run it now, but how did you end up in the position that you're in?
Sure. So just for a little background, for anyone listening who doesn't know, the San Diego Comic-Con Unofficial blog, we're not at all affiliated with Comic-Con International or San Diego Comic-Con, but we are a website that basically covers literally everything that happens at Comic-Con. We're mostly leading up to the convention, this is everything that you're going to find there. These are all of the off-site events outside you're going to find there, everything you can buy there. All of that we tell you about. But the website started back in 2009 by a gentleman named Zach Young, and I believe back then, I was not part of the site in 2009, but I believe that it was basically, there is so much information about Comic-Con, and there was just no real compiled place at the time for off-site events. So people wanted to know what was happening outside of the convention center. Mm-hmm. And so he started kind of compiling this information. And then I came on in, I believe, 2012, and I officially took over in 2014. And it's just grown so much since then. Like I said, we cover literally everything that happens at the convention.
Yeah, you have definitely caught our attention. I think you've caught the attention of a lot of people. You're a great resource, a great source of information for scoops. I think, for us, me and Abby, that we're the writers of the conversation, we're always looking for story ideas and always looking for, who's got, what information. And the Unofficial blog tends to be a really great source for us. So for that, thank you so much. I don't know how we can thank you anymore, but what you guys do is awesome.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, really, we just view ourselves as somewhere there needs to be all this information compiled because attendees want to know what's going on. They need to know what's going on. And it makes total sense that Comic-Con International doesn't have time to necessarily be telling you about, this booth has a bobblehead and this artist is going to bring this print. They're a little bit busy putting on an event. So we try to just let attendees and everyone else in the area know this is what you can expect at Comic-Con. Okay, so you've covered Comic-Con for quite a while, and I definitely want to get to the part where you tell me what you think of Comic-Con, how it's evolved, and any tips. But first, I want to get to something that I think Abby and I have been wondering is who is behind the Comic-Con Twitter account? The Unofficial blog Comic-Con Twitter account. Who is behind that? So I, with the exception of during the show when it's all of us, all hands on deck on our Twitter account, I pretty much run our Twitter. And I view our Twitter as we try to be informational, but also fun. So we just try to have fun with it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. It's got like this very original voice, and it's very, very conversational and very, I don't know, like unrestrained.
That's very much what I'm going for. We try to be as open as we possibly can. Like, we do Q&As all the time where we just ask our readers, like, hey, just ask us whatever weird questions you have about Comic-Con, and we'll try to answer them. And sometimes that means we get asked when our badge is shipping 800 times in a day. But we try.
Speaking of Twitter, what are the things that most of your audience likes? You know, what are the things that gets the most retweets and the most favorites on your Twitter feed?
Truthfully, the thing that I love about San Diego Comic-Con is that everyone is into something else. Everyone is into just different things. So, like, some people go for the off-site activations that the different companies bring, which are these like really cool interactive experiences out in the gas lamp. Some people go for the exclusive toys that you can only get at Comic-Con. Some people go for the panels. So it really just kind of depends. I have found, though, that, and it makes me happy, that like the weirder stuff, especially the stuff that I love, tends to be the stuff that our readers dig. Just because Comic-Con is so huge and there's so many amazing things that come, but it can feel sometimes a little monotonous in that the same things go every year. So when something really weird comes, like KFC used to do these statues of like Colonel Sanders as a unicorn or an anime girl out in the gas lamp. Like, it was so weird, but I loved it. Or Taco Bell this year is doing a pop-up in the gas lamp where they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Demolition Man.
That's awesome.
And they're going to offer
really
like
popular.
free food. Yeah. All that stuff. The like weird stuff that's totally out there that I love, I feel tends to resonate really well with our readers as well.
Does that go well? Does that apply also for the blog posts? Like, you know, what you guys publish on the blog?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously stuff that's going to be more popular. Like, for the exclusive toys, Funko and Hasbro is absolutely where it's at. but everything just runs the gamut because people go to Comic-Con for a million different reasons. Like, if you asked 50 people why they were going to the convention, no two people are going to give you the exact same answer.
Mm-hmm. So you said you have, I guess, staff writers, staff editors, people who help you out with the blog. Does everybody have like their own particular job covering their own particular angle, or is it very general? Everybody covers everything.
It's very general. I actually do most of our writing, but we have a large staff, and everybody just kind of does different things. I've got some photographers on my staff. I've got people who basically try to find the information that we post about. I've got some other writers who are wonderful. I do have a couple people who specialize in some things, like Kim Twombly. She also runs OutsideComicCon.com. If you've ever been to that, she writes for us as well. She is fantastic at finding all of the offsite events and promoting all of those. Sean Marshall, who also runs ParksandCons.com, he is amazing at offering tips and different things like that, telling you what's going on, how to get around. He's fantastic.
I'll be sure to look up that work. And just to be sure, these are all volunteers. Everybody volunteers. Is that?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Oh, that's dedication. That's real fandom right there. And I gotta get you to explain what does that unofficial title mean? Like, can you explain what it means to be unofficial? Like, what is the relationship between you and International Comic-Con, for example?
Sure. Like I said, we are unaffiliated with Comic-Con, and that's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. We are not Comic-Con International, but we have a working relationship with them. We talk to them a decent amount about any questions we have or anytime we need clarification about things. They post a lot of information that we share with our readers, but basically we're just not Comic-Con is really what the unofficial part means.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you know, that's I guess, for us, we're journalists, we cover Comic-Con, so I guess we do have those relationships with them, and like source, I guess, journalist source relationship.
Right.
That's really interesting. Do people recognize you when you go to Comic-Con and say like, hey, you're that person from San Diego Comic-Con Unofficial blog?
Yeah, it does happen sometimes. It's still very weird for me. It used to not happen that often, but last year it happened a whole lot more. And I think it's mostly because we also do a podcast.
Okay.
A video podcast leading up to the convention where we just talk about all the news and we interview different people. So I think a lot of people do recognize us from that. But it's been really fun, like just getting to meet our readers, getting to talk to them. Like it's always...
And you'll be
fun.
recording some podcasts there while at Comic-Con?
We don't usually record at Comic-Con. Pretty much everything we do really is leading up to the convention. We want you to get prepared so that when you get to the convention, you are ready. Because what we have found is that when people actually get to the convention, they don't have time to like sit there and read article after article after article. Like that's all the legwork leading up to the convention. When you get there, you want a really quick update on like Twitter. So we typically don't do podcasts or big long posts during the show, but we do everything possible leading up to it.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things, and I guess buzziest things that we heard this year and the lead up to Comic-Con was the big announcement from HBO that Westworld and Game of Thrones was not going to be showing up this year, and that Marvel was going to be sort of skipping out on Hall H, which is the big, I guess, stage where big movie productions make big announcements about their latest project. Is this normal? Is this normal, or is this is this a big thing? Should fans be worried about Comic-Con?
This question seems to come up every year, and it's always really funny to me because it does come up every single year, and then every single year by the time the panel schedule comes out, it's like, oh, it's fine. And that's basically exactly what's happening this year as well. It's a whole lot easier for these companies to announce, like, early on, like, yeah, I'm not going, than it is for them to have all of their details nailed down and announce exactly what they're bringing and who they're taking a couple weeks later. And so the narrative for a couple of weeks was HBO's not going, Marvel Studios isn't going, what's going on with Comic-Con? But the truth is, all of these companies, there's really just ebbs and flows in what makes sense for them to bring. So HBO, for instance, right now, their Game of Thrones isn't airing until no one even knows when in 2019.
Right.
Westworld just finished its season, so there's no real reason for them to go.
Right.
But there's so many other companies and studios who are going this year. In fact, a lot of them are actually coming back this year. Universal is back for the first time, I think, since 2014. They've got Halloween and Glass.
I saw that. Jamie Lee Curtis tweeted out recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
It's going to be Jamie Lee Curtis, and then Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and James McAvoy for Glass. So that's going to be amazing.
That is going to be awesome.
Paramount is back for the first time since, I think, 2014. They're bringing Bumblebee.
I saw some of that too. Wow.
Yep. And then Sony hasn't had a panel since 2015, and they're back this year, and they are bringing Venom and then that new animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So,
yeah, that was one of the big questions that I had. Like Venom and Spider-Man are part of the Marvel universe. Is that correct? But then Sony owns the rights to those brands. Is that how it works?
Well, it's kind of... Sony owns the rights, but they've partnered up with Marvel for at least Venom. I have no idea, actually, if Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But because Sony owns it, they can absolutely bring it without like Kevin Feige and the rest of Marvel Studios showing up. So that's super easy for them to do. And there's a rumor, I have no idea how true it is, that Tom Holland, who's Spider-Man, may show up for this panel, so we'll have to wait and see.
I'm going to be looking out for any strange people that do something behind a mask with the camera following them, because that is exactly how celebrities filter through the crowd without getting noticed.
It is. Yeah. Daniel Radcliffe a couple years ago, he dressed up as like a very terrible looking Spider-Man so no one would take photos with him and wandered around. Bryan Cranston
I don't know if you remember
wore a mask of himself.
Yeah, Lupita Nyong'o apparently also did this dance all over the Comic-Con floor, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, so there's always hidden celebrities. But it's fun sometimes because we hear stories every year after the convention and people will be like, oh my God, that was that person, I met them. And it's always really fun.
Okay, so as an expert, somebody who's been covering this and somebody who's a fan of Comic-Con, you feel confident that Comic-Con is definitely not losing its luster. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do feel that way.
Okay.
I just don't think people have anything to worry about. It's just, again, this happens every year. It's just always the narrative for a couple weeks, and then it changes as people start announcing, this is what I'm bringing. So
just to kind of balance, look at the balance between the traditional Comic-Con stuff, the illustrators coming out here and showing off their work, meeting with the fans, and then you have the big movie production, buzzy installations, that sort of steal the show or just compete for eyeballs and the attention. What do you think about that balance? Is that kind of tipping a little bit too much to one side, or does it stay balanced? Does Comic-Con International keep it balanced?
I think Comic-Con International does an amazing job of programming things for everyone. And in fact, if you actually sit down and look at the complete schedule list and look at like how many movie panels there are versus how many TV panels versus how many comics wins every time. There are just more panels for comics and that whole industry than there are anything else. It's just, like you said, a lot of times that's not what's going to get the media buzz. And so most of the time when you come out of Comic-Con, the things that you hear about are like, oh yeah, the movies in Hall H. But that's just a tiny little portion of everything that they program. And again, CCI does a amazing job of just making sure that everything is covered and that comics especially have a huge platform at Comic-Con.
I wonder how much those big movie production buzz installation attract or become a factor to attracting big crowds.
I mean, I definitely do think that one of the biggest draws about San Diego Comic-Con is that that's where the big movies are and that's where the big TV shows are. But there's New York Comic-Con in the last couple of years has especially come up, and they've had not quite the same caliber of talent, but pretty darn close. But there is just nothing that can touch San Diego Comic-Con and the reputation that it has, the talent that it can bring out. There's just nothing else like it.
What are you looking forward for about this year's Comic-Con? What you're definitely going to be here. What are some of the things that you're definitely looking forward to this year?
Well, I'm pretty interested in that Taco Bell Demolition Man late night free food thing. So I'm sure the lines will be nuts.
Count me in as a +1. Yeah, there you go. I'm there too.
Absolutely.
You think it's going to be crowded? I think it's going to be pretty crowded because that's pretty awesome.
I think it's got to be wall-to-wall people. I mean, it's free Taco Bell. Yeah. And not only that, but okay, so here's the really cool thing about this Taco Bell thing. Is that they're actually taking over like an upscale steakhouse.
Ooh.
Because they want it to look more like the Taco Bell from the movies. It's nacho fries of the future. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
But it's just going to be amazing, and they're going to have merch for sale there. So I'm really excited about Taco Bell. But beyond that, I am excited about some of the weirder little TV panels that I didn't think we were going to get this year. Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is coming, and I am so excited about that.
Wait, didn't that show get canceled?
Fox canceled it, and then NBC picked it up.
Oh, so, I totally missed that. Wow. Yeah,
so NBC is bringing Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So 9-9.
Wow. Good for them. Good for them that they're coming back. I have like some interesting stories from my previous Comic-Con times. Usually like they mostly have to do with a lot of walking, a lot of talking with a lot of strangers, and ultimately feeling like I need a shower. But what are some of your more favorable moments or stories? Do you have do you remember your first Comic-Con, for example?
Yeah, it's funny though what you just said. Yeah, that's pretty much a basic description of Comic-Con. Is it's a lot of walking, a lot of sitting, a lot of talking to strangers, but then it's intermixed with these just like amazing moments.
Yeah.
But but my first Comic-Con is actually a really funny story. I had been in San Diego for like maybe an hour, and my friend and I went to dinner over at the Hard Rock Hotel. And as we were walking out, all of a sudden my friend grabs my arm and she starts going very quietly, "It's David Hasselhoff! It's David Hasselhoff!" And I look over and sure enough, it's David Hasselhoff. And again, she's not being that quiet. So he definitely hears her. So he looks over at us and he goes, "Hello, ladies."
Oh my gosh. I can almost picture that, him saying that.
And there has never been a greater introduction to Comic-Con than that.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty good way to get in on that. Okay, so what we have like a list of survival guide tips, for people who have been going for a while and people who have never been there for new beginners. Do you have what advice do you have for fans? And anything that they should definitely do or don't do?
The most obvious advice is always wear comfortable shoes. In fact, bring 2 pairs of shoes so that you can switch them out because you're going to be walking a whole lot.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Bring a portable charger so that you can charge up your phone because you're going to be spending a lot of time in lines.
Yes. Check. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then the advice that we always give attendees is that as you start looking at all of this amazing stuff that's happening at Comic-Con, pick one thing a day that's your dream thing and be that is the number one thing I want to do. And then after that, have 2 or 3 backups. And then while you're at Comic-Con, if one of those things per day happens, it's great. Anything else on top of that is just icing on the cake.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, that's actually really smart. Yeah, I know the schedules are just barely starting to come out. So hopefully the listeners who are listening and starting to make plans or procrastinating, you can leave some room for the unexpected little events or meet us at Taco Bell.
Absolutely. I'll be at Taco
Bell. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much all I have. Again, thank you so much for joining us here at the conversation. We're definitely going to give you a shout out on Twitter. And we'll be looking out for any of those really interesting in-between moments. See if we catch anything interesting. Maybe we'll catch a celebrity out there.
I bet you will.
Yeah. So for our listeners who are tuning in and listening to this special podcast edition of The Conversation, we have other episodes with other interviews for Comic-Con. Be sure to listen to those. And again, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. I owe you a beer or a Taco Bell or a pizza or whatever you need. But thank you so much again, seriously, for taking the time.
Absolutely.
The conversation can be found online at SanDiegoUnionTribune.com/opinion and on Twitter at SDUTideas.
You can find me on Twitter at Abby Hamblin.
And I'm at Run Gomez.
Find more information about our podcast, including contact information, at sdut.us/conversation.
This has been a production of the UT Podcast Network, and thanks for listening.